Okay, it is now 1 o'clock. The Christ candle has been lit, and we are ready for the minister to open us with the opening prayer, followed by his report.
Thank you, Joanne. And so we have some music playing very softly. This is, if I talk about it very much, I get tearful. Paul Hasselbeck was one of my primary teachers, not primary school, but one of my main teachers when I took classes in my ministerial development. And he would start every class with this song that Reverend Levitt's been playing. And so when I hear this song, I flash back through all the ministerial development that I was going through at the time, all the questions and all the formation. So it's such a joy to hear that again, and a joy to have all of you here, whether you're live streaming or whether you're physically present here. So yeah, we can give a shaka back here. Thank you, love streamers, for joining us. And my prayer is that it's nice and cool where you are. But thank you for joining us. We send warm blessings of aloha. Okay, let's take a deep breath. Spirit, we know you are present. Wherever we are, you are. We know that you guide in all that transpires here, and we know that this church is in your care and in your keeping. Bless this time with your love, wisdom, and compassion. And we give thanks, and so it is. Amen. The order has been changed just a little bit, so the minister's report center plans. But we communicate by email and by phone, and so we continue to make progress on plans for there being a retreat center. We're not talking at this point about a new people from on island, church groups, other kinds of groups, and have retreats here. Secondly, families I always go up and talk to them, and I like to try to find out, how'd you hear about us, and how was the service, and all that. And I have heard at times people say, I love this church, but I can't come here because there's no nursery. To me, that's an issue that I hope working with the board we can address, is putting together a nursery if we're wanting a family-centered environment. And also continue to expand our youth. Fun to watch Marcia run all over the place. When I was at Unity of Wichita, we had a nursery, and sometimes we would have one, sometimes two, but we continued to have the nursery because it was a vision that we had to have young families, and if you have young families, you often have babies. Seems to happen. I don't know. And so soon before I left, we had 13 babies in the nursery. We need to hold that vision if we're wanting to create a family centered environment. Another goal that we have is to create an environment and opportunities to bring the space so every nook and cranny of this place was blessed and cleansed. And lastly, our week of intense that. And I want to thank June Dillinger and Reverend Gio for teaching, and Metaphysics 1 and prayer. And then every night I taught meditation class, and typically we would have about 30 people in the meditation class each night. And we really had a wonderful time going into depth into meditation and lots of different styles of meditation, meditation. We did various kinds of meditation, and it is a wonderful time. And so it also gave us the opportunity to envision how we might do future retreats here, because we were looking at, okay, how we use the I'm just sort of putting this out there, planting a seed. Whatever we can do, maybe to, I really love room 201 and 204. It'd be nice if we could update maybe the carpet or how it looks. I'm just saying, I'm planting a seed. And I also had a very big wedding and a funeral of a young lady who and it was a great opportunity to connect with a number of people who used to attend here, some of whom were here in the 9 o'clock service today. So I look for those ways to network and connect with people. And I encourage you to do the same. Find people who can benefit from being here. I love you all. Mahalo.
And now we're going to hear from Catherine Burton. There you are, right in front of me, who's going to talk more about what's coming up as well as what's happening.
Well, I want to thank you very much for all of you being here. My name is Catherine Burton. I'm a licensed Unity teacher here, and I'm giving a report. Is this working? Okay. I'm giving a report on the spiritual education and enrichment 9th through the 13th. We had 3 great classes, metaphysics, prayer, and meditation, which everybody felt really synergized to give us an experience of being in retreat here. Reverend Gio, the pastor of the Windward Unity Church, came and taught the metaphysics us in the morning, and in his own great way, Reverend Gio had us, talking and discussing and questioning who we are, what's the nature of reality, what's the meaning of life, as only he could. It was really great. I felt like I was back in college, that class at that time. And then June Dillinger, a licensed Unity teacher, taught the prayer class, and June took us around the world in prayer and also taught us that many things, prayer can take many forms. And I realized that my speaking right now is a prayer. It's a prayer of putting this out that other people might become more aware of things. So that was a very liberating idea. And as Reverend Tim just said, we had a wonderful time in his meditation class at night where we learned walking meditation, reading meditation, which is called Lectio Divino, breathing, chanting, and mindfulness. A big emphasis on mindfulness. So we all felt that it really brought us closer together as a group by going through those classes and building our sense of community. I will be teaching a class starting Saturday, August the 4th on self-awareness. It will go for 5 weeks on Saturday 1 to 3 up in room 201. The 5 weeks will not include the Saturday during Labor Day weekend. Self-awareness, the class is designed to help us become more aware of our true self, the big S, self-awareness, and its power to really transform our lives, our health, our relationships, our work and prosperity, and our meaning in life. So if you're interested, you can see me and sign up, or sign up at Connection Central next week. And then the last thing I want to say is that I have been called to help support the spiritual education program here at the Unity Church of Hawaii, and also especially called to support those who want to fulfill the requirements as a licensed Unity teacher candidate in their becoming teachers as well. So if you have any questions about this, the classes, the program, please connect with me. For people wanting classes online, you have 2 choices. You can go to the Unity Spiritual Institute, which is connected to Unity Worldwide Ministries, and they have all these classes online. And you could also go to Unity Maui, spelled M-A-U-I, on the island of Maui in Hawaii. And there, Reverend Gio, he does all of, Reverend Gary Kanye, thank you so much. Reverend Gary Kanye teaches all of his classes online as well, so that's another option for you. Thank you, and I hope that this really encourages everybody in our path of education here at Unity Church of Hawaii. Thank you. Are there any questions? Good.
All right. I forgot to, because not everyone was here in the Sunday morning service, we talked about $5,000 being granted to us from Unity Worldwide Ministries for upgrading our sound equipment, going from analog to digital, new lighting, LED lighting, going to things that will benefit our live streaming. And so what we've done is to set a cap at $10,000 for that project, and people are donating. We've been receiving donations this morning. I haven't looked at the amounts. I look forward to hearing what the amounts are. But we received donations during the board meeting Thursday night, and we've been receiving donations this morning in the church service. So if any of you are interested in that, your money will be matched by a donor here. And also, see, in the Sunday morning service, I was spot on. When we go over $10,000 that we will have for this project, the money that goes over that will go towards the other action auction items. Some of you remember those items. different things to help our campus, so you can see your money tangibly helping areas on campus. Like you can see if you haven't seen it yet, when you leave, look at the wonderful guttering along the side of the chapel and around the buildings, or down in the courtyard. Our new water fountains, there's 2 of them, and a bottle filler have been installed. Wonderful new stuff. Auction items. So, if you wish to contribute to that, please jump on in, and we would love to receive your donations to go towards that. I think that's all I have to say on that. Thank you.
Thank you. So, I'm actually liking this new format because we're kind of opening with the more spiritual aspects, which I think is important to you. Shifting gears now to responsibility for the church, we'll hear from Kathy Whitmire on the financial report.
Thank you, Joanne. I'm not sure exactly how to take that introduction. Let's see, I have another microphone here. Which one should I be using? This one? Oh, okay. All right, very good. Well, let me just follow up quickly. Oh, okay. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Kathy Whitmire. It's my great honor to be treasurer of name on it, then if there's nobody here to give it to, we have a magical little box that looks like a mailbox, so that even when the office is closed, you can drop it into that box, and I can assure you that it is locked, and we open it up when we get ready to count money and deposit money, which is something we do every Monday morning here with our volunteer team. So I don't want there to be any question in your mind as to how you can participate in the exciting projects that are going on. So if you're here in person, you can put money in an envelope. If you're watching on live stream, you can go right on the church website and click donate, and there you have to use a credit card to donate. And once you put your credit card information in, it will ask you, do you want this money to go wherever the need is the greatest? And as treasurer, I do always like to hear that people are contributing for wherever the need is the greatest. However, if you have a specific thing like this audiovisual project, you can write that in. It has a blank for you to fill it in. And that way, when we receive that donation, we record it in that restricted fund. So that's just a little background of how you can participate personally in the things that are happening. Now, let me go on to the financial statements that Marcia has been passing out. I am glad to say that as a result of the progress that we made last year toward getting our finances better organized and hiring an outside CPA firm to keep the books on a regular basis, we do receive every month all of the reports that we need, a balance sheet and a P&L statement, profit and loss statement, both for the current month and for the year to date with comparisons to our budget. So we've made great progress in terms of our current accounting. We still have a little bit of cleanup to be done on prior years that were not properly accounted for so that we can complete our audit obligations. And we still are working with the preschool to clean up some of the inaccuracies in the accounting there so that that too can be included in our audit as it is required to be. So we're making progress, and that's why you have in front of you a and the investments that we have, which total $469,000 at this point. Our fixed assets minus accumulated depreciation, that's our beautiful campus here. And then that shows us a total of $1,144,000 in assets. And we have very few liabilities in this ministry. The only debt that we have, as shown on this financial statement, is a loan payable to Unity Worldwide Ministries, which was the HUGS grant of $4,100 that we received so that we could go ahead with the installation of our new rain gutters. And if you're here when it's raining, you will appreciate how important it was for us to go ahead with that. We're repaying it monthly over a period of 5 years. So that's really the only debt that this ministry has. And I think that is something that can make us feel good about being a part of this operation. I want to go on from the balance sheet to that separate sheet that doesn't have anything on the back. And that is the results of our operations for this month that just ended, the month of June. So this shows you the actual results for the month of June, the donations that were received, the other income that was received, for a total of $32,617 of the various types of revenue. And then you can see that, well, we were really shooting higher than that when we made out the budget, and that we were about $10,000 short of what we had hoped to bring in during this particular month. But our expenses go on, and the expenses total $39,300. So that left us for the month of June with what's known as a deficit. That is $6,700 more expense than income. So that eats into what reserves we have, which are fairly slim. So what do we do about that operating system that we're bringing in less than we're paying out? Now, for the months of April and May, we were pretty much break even. The first 3 months of the year, we had deficits. So we do have an accumulated deficit at this time for the first 6 months of the year. What the board did at our Thursday night meeting was to vote to revise our budget for the year so that we can monitor our expenses and make sure that we do live within our means for the full year. And we, had a really good time at the end of last year, beginning with the Makahiki and then the holiday season and the end of the year, and brought in some extra money. But, those reserves have been kind of depleted. So now we need to be very careful that we maximize our donations and other sources of income, and that we monitor our expenses very carefully. And that's why the board voted to amend the budget by actually reducing the amount of projected donation income for this year to equal the amount that we received in 2017. So that seemed a little more realistic for us to manage our expenses on an ongoing monthly basis. Those are the main points I wanted to make. I will ask you to look briefly at the back of your balance sheet where you see the 6-month accumulated figures for what happened the first 6 months of the year. And we might take just a moment to look below the ordinary income and loss that tells us about our expenses being higher than income for our operating expenses. But then we look at our other revenues and other expenses. That's usually what we call restricted income and expense. So that's not part of our ongoing operation. So when we have a special project, we ask for special donations and they go into those accounts. And you can see that we did receive some funds in those accounts during this 6-month period. We received $500 to help us pay for our audit, which has already started. We received $1,775 to set aside towards building that youth ministry that Reverend Tim talked about, all the things that we need for having a strong youth ministry. We received almost $10,000 as special donations in celebration of Reverend Tim's first year in this ministry, which shows, I think, great appreciation for the work that Reverend Tim is doing here as our senior minister. And we received an additional $8,100 of specific donations that were not part of a campaign but were set aside by individual donors for specific purposes. And then we received some additional money for the Action Auction. And actually, this kind of understates what we received, because the very last weekend of June, we received almost 2,000 more. But that didn't get recorded until July, just because of the way we keep our books here. We record things, as I mentioned, on Monday based on the Sunday before, which was July 1. So that other 2,000 will show up in the next report. So these are specific items of income that we've received, and then you can see that some of it's been spent. We have had what's shown as investment expenses, which is actually the legal and governmental expenses involved in creating our new endowment foundation, so that we can really get going on the permanent endowment for this ministry. We show some GET taxes paid. That was actually taxes paid earlier this year, based on our luau that we had, the luau tickets that we sold. But the only reason I mention it is because that's another one of the things that we're trying to do, is making sure that we comply with all the rules and regulations, like paying our GET taxes on time when they are due. Then you can see that we expended Action Auction funds for the projects that have already been talked about: the rain gutters, the drinking fountains, and also for some of the decorations for our specific celebrations on Easter and Mother's Day. And we had some funds expended for our restricted music fund, where there were specific needs for the music equipment and programs. So those are expenditures that took place out of our restricted funds that are not part of our annual operating budget. I think I've talked just about enough, and I want to open it up for any questions that you might have. Yes, Jerry? You want to come up here, or be sure and introduce yourself? Be sure and introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Jerry Denton. I'm honored to be a board member. First of all, Kathy, I just want to say thank you for your tireless and comprehensive work in our finances.
Thank you.
I know it's been a challenge, and I appreciate your perseverance to stick with it. And actually, your reporting, I found your reporting to be very clear and easy to understand.
Thank you.
What I want to express is that I also appreciate the stance the Finance Committee took this last week, because my many years here as a church and as a board member, never do I remember us adjusting our budget to a more realistic number so we could actually manage our finances. And I think that was an excellent move. Thank you for that. Because we've always just operated in the negative, thought that was okay. So I really appreciate this approach. It seems novel, but makes so much sense. The last thing is just a comment I want to make, and that is, we have a couple of things that we're giving to, for example, Reverend Tim's honorarium, which I think is really appropriate, our audiovisual system, which is a big part of our growth. And I would just express that I hope that in our giving to these things that we're not shorting our giving to the church in general, to those components that allow us to continue to function and operate on a day-to-day, week-to-week, and annual basis. Because without our ability to operate the church from our donations to the church itself for general operating funds, we'll cease to operate. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I certainly second what Jerry said about the need to make distinctions. We have a separate project going on we want to contribute to, but we still need to make our regular donations to keep the church operating. Any other questions or comments on the finance report? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you. And we are ahead of schedule, so how thrilled am I about that? And we'll try and be less repetitive, which will streamline my report. Okay, so I want to start with the potluck for Olga Lucia Ole, where we got to welcome Olga Lucia home. It was a huge success. It was a fundraiser, fun with the little d, and so I'm particularly pleased to report we did. Where is she here? Where did she go? She's gone. All right. Well, hopefully she's watching at home. She was just the delight of the party, as we all know, and her teaching us all the merengue was absolutely fun, and people just seemed to dance and have a wonderful time, and they danced as a couple, and that was fun to watch as well, so it was good fun. And for being a fundraiser more than a fundraiser, I'm particularly excited to report that the silent auction brought in roughly $300, and the action auction brought in about $1,200 for close to $2,000. And I think the thing that's more important is not just that the money came in, but we're beginning as a church to associate giving with having fun. So I think that that's going to be a real exciting way forward for this. As a result of this, the action auction status has changed, and I have dubbed Thomas as Thomas the Terminator because he makes sure that projects finish. So he's the one who made sure the gutters were done. He's the one who made sure the drinking fountain was done. So I want to thank Thomas the Terminator for that. And I'll just keep rolling on this. Obviously, Kathy Whitmire has already been thanked. Thank you so much for your efforts. Some of you may not realize that she was a former consultant for an accounting firm. So it's very unusual for us to have a board treasurer of that caliber. We also have Marcia Bethards, who also is in finance, so that's helpful. Debbie Catanian does a yeoman's effort trying to keep us all organized and take minutes. Between the two of us and our two fried brains on Thursday, we're having a hard time figuring out where we were, but she keeps us on track, and I really, really appreciate that. Who else? Jerry Denton is the assistant secretary, and he gets to be in the hot seat at the next meeting, taking notes for us. And Richard Hughes, our pilot, keeps us on a steady course and makes sure that we're always, proper with our procedure and where we are. And so we really have a terrific board. I hope I didn't miss anybody. But so Jan Fitzgerald, my gosh. Jan is always the quiet observer, but she, and Ricky Banning, where's Ricky? There you go. Those two are forming up the policy committee. We're kind of reconfiguring that a little bit. And we have received from UWM a sample entire policy packet from another church. And Jan has agreed to take on comparing that packet to what we have here, and we're going to start filling pukas. So we're very pleased about those efforts. And and then Ricky is going to be working on the safety and the PII information, two things that were hot buttons for a while but have languished. So we're going to have her focus on those and get those moving forward. Considerable is that it seems to open up people's hearts. People really seem to enjoy that. So we're thinking of bringing it back again in November as sort of a general gratitude. And that comes from the Finance Committee, which is composed of Catherine Burton, Sue Bergman, and myself. And the what did I say? Fundraising committee. And Jerry drops by to spice up the meeting and make sure that we have lots of good energy in that meeting. And Catherine keeps us on a spiritual basis. And then Sue comes in with all of her experience in other nonprofit organizations. So it's a great committee. The honorarium for Tim has been, as you can tell, it has at the end of this month. And then as agreed, he can then draw it down at his leisure. That's up to him as to how he wants to draw it down, including taking it all at once or taking it a little bit of a time. That's entirely up to him. The name tag people were asking, where are the name tags? So I'm very pleased about that. I want to make clear that we started with members because that was the list we had on hand. But anyone who wants a name tag can have a name tag. They just need to see me, and I'll make one up for them by the next time. We also have made some enhancements. I put a little clips on the board, which makes them easier to get off and on. I've created a little box, which I forgot to put out today, so people can take their tags down to the courtyard and then drop them off down there. And some people requested clips rather than lanyards, and I bought some clips. So we have some alternatives for that. So that name project is starting to stabilize and starting to get refined, and I'm just about ready to hand it off to some volunteers who will put it out in the morning and pick it up in the afternoon, and I will work with our volunteer coordinator and or the ushers to get that done. Okay, moving on to the AG's inquiry. As president, I had a meeting while she can talk in very gross terms. We really need to start developing a relationship with ongoing counsel who will advise us and guide us on specifics. So she's only willing to talk about very big topics. The day-to-day, what do we do about this? She will not advise us. So one of the things that we will be looking at is reviewing and selecting ongoing counsel. Jerry and got similar results. We asked slightly different questions, but similar results, clarifying the authority of the board and the need to work with the staff in implementing the policies and the oversight and so on. So that is really going to be the next big mission of the board, is getting those roles clarified, figuring out how we can align ourselves with the statute with the minimum amount of disruption to the current operation and so on and so forth. So we will be meeting this Thursday. We're going to have a brief open meeting to pass one motion, and then we will go into executive session to begin sorting through those issues. Now, we are done well in advance, and I did not put in any Q&A, so we can either open up for Q&A or we can close early. I see Juliet wanting to do the Q&A.
Hi, I'm Juliet Carlson. Am I on? That doesn't sound like it. Am I? Oh, there I am. In thanking all of the board, I'm on board with all of that, but I also wanted to thank Reverend Tim for being here and for all you're doing, all the exciting programs you're introducing, and the spiritual awareness that you have and are passing along to us. And there hasn't been this much excitement for a long time, and I've been here a long time. So thank you, and behind you 100%. Okay, that's it.
And along those lines, one of the things that we will be discussing on Thursday are healing sessions between the board and the minister. He has expressed a need for an opportunity to vent and let us know what's going on with him, and we'll be working on Thursday figuring out what's the appropriate venue for him to start that dialogue. Hey, Jack.
Hi, my name is Jack Randall. I had an idea this week that I just want to pass along. It's not a comment. I'd like to reinforce all of the good feelings that people have been saying about how the board is doing, how our treasurer is doing, how Reverend Tim is doing, and Joanne, how you're doing too. I want to make sure you understand that. My idea, which I don't know whether it would work here, is to create a membership-wide chat room in which members of our mailing list could be somehow associated. Those with technical skills could figure out how to do that. And so that on a day-to-day basis, any member could interface with anyone, ask questions, share ideas, make it more of an ongoing, everyday experience. I've seen some of these chat rooms, of which I'm a member of some, that have been very successful at bringing people together, sharing ideas. And I just wondered if anyone had heard about that or whether that might be an idea that could be advanced here.
I personally think it's a terrific idea. And one of the reasons that I like it is because I want us to start, and I don't mean to make this sound classist, but I want us to begin realizing that members have certain privileges that non-members do not. And I would love a page where there were certain documents or certain questions that get discussed among members, because there's sort of a fear that if information is revealed, it is made public. It is not necessarily made public. It's made available to the members as they ask for it. So this idea of creating a space for members, I think, is terrific, just not only for chatting, but for disseminating information that members would be interested in. And then we can work with Johanna, I'll work through Tim, about organizing a page where we consolidate the things that the members would be interested in. Linda Guess?
Thank you. My name is Linda Guest, and this is not a question, but more of a statement. First of all, Reverend Tim and the board, thank you for your commitment for youth education. And I hope as we move along with this process that I can be a part of that, because I think you folks know I am very dedicated to youth ed. Part of our problem with youth ed is we need bodies. We need volunteers. We need volunteers, and we need to find a way to recruit the people. We're willing to do a nursery. I have a faithful volunteer there that shows up every Aloha Sunday, and she can tell you, we're there and we don't always have children. We are committed, but we need volunteers. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your ongoing dedication to that effort. Diana?
Yeah, I have a few questions, so thank you for opening up to Q&A. The first, since you mentioned it about Reverend Tim voicing the need to
Vent, I was the word I
vent.
used.
Thank you, Reverend Tim, for venting during that board meeting. Some of the members may not have understood why it was necessary, but I was grateful, that you, one, because you were stepping up and sharing or being more open. That's not the word you use, but you were stepping up and stepping out to do that. And the other is, I'm glad you shared with the board, because they are your employers. And personally, I think if I were an employer, I'd want to know what my employee was, how we could better work, right, more cohesively. The second is, I asked once at a town hall before about the audio recordings, how we can access that, and I didn't get an answer. But I did miss a board meeting where this was discussed, a proposal by Kathy, something to do with accounting. And I understand that it was passed, but I just wanted to know in more detail what that proposal was and why it was proposed, and how this affects the running of the church right now.
Was it a recent meeting? The one that we just passed. I wanted to make sure I was addressing the right thing.
Diana, are you referring to the policy about disclosure of financial information of employees and the school and that? Can you tell us which you're talking about?
Kathy, maybe you know. It's a proposal where you're developing another position or a higher one.
I can only tell you what I know of that I've brought to the board that has been adopted, and that was in June. I brought to the board a policy statement that would clarify the access that the Board of Trustees has under state law and under our bylaws to accounting records and financial information, and that was adopted. And due to the work of our policy committee, we're creating formal written policies that the board has adopted. So that's the only one like that recently. In several prior meetings, we had board votes requesting more information about the finances of the preschool. And one reason for this policy being formally adopted is because the preschool information had not been forthcoming, and now we are beginning to get better information. So maybe that's what you're talking about. And those policies should be available not only to you, but to any congregant who wants them after they've been adopted by the board.
So how can we access that?
How can we access the policies? Joanne's going to speak about that, I'm sure.
What we intend to do, and this is how far we got, the policies such as they are, and they're pretty slim, reside in Lisa's office. If we go gung-ho in creating policies, which is what I'm hoping we will do, then what my intention is to copy what Lisa has in her office, so we're not running in and out of her office, and setting up another notebook of policies so that people can come in and review. So once as with everything, you saw it took a while for the name tags to really kind of get rolling. I think it'll take a while for the policies to get rolling. But what I'm hoping, my vision, again, this is just me, is that policies will be put in this place before they are adopted so that people can see what it is we're intending to do. And then they can give feedback to various board members that will get reflected in the board meetings and the final adoptions of the policies. And then it'll move from a proposal into a policy, and we'll build up that policy manual, and that would be available. Does that answer your question? Okay. Good.
Okay, I have just a little further on that. So when you create these policies, if a policy relates to, let's say, guidance from Unity Worldwide Ministries or a state statute or wherever, would you put that as a reference so someone who really wanted, not me, but someone who really wanted could go back and look at that document to see that we're solid with it?
Yes, one of the things that you're kind of asking me to tip my hand about Thursday's meeting, but one of the things that I want to do between now and Thursday is to take a look at the statutes and get very clear on precisely what is the board responsible for producing. And have that by section so that as we're developing policies, whether it's because of UWM, which is what we did with the Reverend policy, that was based on UWM guidance, or if it's the request for information, which I happen to know, that one is 306.5, that will be in there so that you will know exactly what statute it is that we're basing the authority on. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kathy.
Okay, I just wanted to add one more thing to the question that Diana brought up about how these things can be accessed. Before I was on the board, the main place I looked to access the information about what the board was doing was on our website where the minutes were posted. And I think we may be a little bit behind right now posting those minutes to the website, but as soon as we can get those caught up, it would not only give you the minutes, that is, what did we vote on, but the attached documents that were submitted and any changes that were made. So to me, at least, as somebody who likes to get my information off of the internet, that's easier than coming up and looking in a book in the office. So hopefully we can have that brought up to date so that everybody has current access to what the board has been doing by looking at our minutes online. Thank you.
And that's why I thought that Jack's request was just in divine orders, because there's an increasing need, I think, from what I'm hearing from many different sources, of creating a space for members with the proper documents there that are easily accessible. Juliet?
I keep hearing about policies, and I'm wondering if there's a point where there's like an avalanche of policies to get buried under. Is all of this really necessary? I mean,
Well, all I can say is that we will try to only pass policies that are necessary. But one of the things that we constantly have to worry about, which is why we need all these open discussions, is the board turns over every year. And by the end of 3 years, it turns over substantially. That, to me, is unfair to staff. They need policies that will endure beyond the current 9 that are serving. And that's why I'm hoping we'll have full discussion, full disclosure, and policies that will stabilize the church and set up procedures. Right now, we are fortunate enough to have a brilliant treasurer. When she goes, will anyone else know what to do? I hope so, because I want her to put it down in writing. That's the kind of policy that I'm talking about, that it just establishes and stabilizes the church. And that's where we're going to need your feedback. If you feel that what we've done is not supporting the staff and supporting the church, but is in fact repressing the staff or repressing the church, then we need to have a fuller discussion about that.
thank you.
Okay. Is that any more questions? I feel like I'm missing something, but I don't know what it is. So I'm going to just assume it's divine order that I can't remember. And we will close 8 minutes early with the closing prayer and the community song.
We're grateful, Spirit, for this time together. We're grateful for each one who is here. We're grateful for your presence. And so it is. Amen. Let's join hands as we sing Weave. Weave us together, weave us together in unity and love. Weave, weave, weave us together, weave us together in unity and love. All right. Have a wonderful evening. And remember, tomorrow night, if any of you want to come, straight from India, he's flying right now. Padmanayana Das is going to be here 7 p.m. tomorrow. Love offering basis. It'll be a great time. Yeah? All right. Namaste.